I've gotten tons of requests from people wanting to know how you can go about retraining from being a line of the Air Force officer to becoming a JAG, or a Judge Advocate General, a military attorney, and how you can go about being enlisted and becoming an officer and an attorney in the Air Force. The programs that I'm going to talk about in this video are FLEP and EFLEP, the Funded Legal Education Program and the Enlisted to Funded Legal Education Program. I'll go over everything that you need to know about the eligibility requirements, the application process, the service commitment that you take on, when the selection board meets, just everything that you need to know about the two programs. This is going to be a pretty dense one, so let's get to it. What's up, everybody? I'm Ashley Noel, and on this channel we talk about military lifestyles, leadership tips, and tips for living and working abroad. So if any of those topics interest you, please make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons down below. It is completely free to you, and it does actually help the channel and lets me know that the information that I'm providing is actually useful. First, I'm going to talk about the Funded Legal Education Program, or FLEP, because if you're enlisted and you're trying to do EFLEP, or the Enlisted to Funded Legal Education Program, then basically what you're doing is you're applying to do FLEP once you complete officer training school. So that's why first I'm going to talk about FLEP so that you can get everything that you need to know about FLEP, and then I'll go into EFLEP and the additional requirements for that. So if you're enlisted and you're waiting for the EFLEP portion, don't just skip ahead because you need to know this stuff too. Alright, so the Funded Legal Education Program, this provides a way for current active duty line of the Air Force officers. So we're talking about folks who are already officers in the Air Force but are just part of a different career field. It allows them to be able to go to law school full-time, earn a Juris Doctor degree, a law degree, take the bar exam, and then enter into the JAG Corps. Those who are selected for FLEP will have their law school tuition and fees paid for on the Air Force's dime, but one caveat to that is that there is a limit on how much the Air Force will pay in terms of your tuition each year. So sometimes if there are overage costs, then students will be able to offset that price with academic-based scholarships or tuition waivers that are provided by the university, the law school itself. For the 2020 to 2021 academic year, the tuition limit was set at $376 per credit hour, but I'll leave a link in the description below to the Air Force Institute of Technology's website on their tuition and financial aid page so that you can check back for more up-to-date information for whenever you might be watching this video. One huge benefit about FLEP is that for those 3 years that you're in law school, you'll still receive your full military pay and allowances just as you typically would as an Air Force officer. You don't lose rank or time in service. All of that continues to accrue even while you're in law school, and again, they pay your tuition and fees. So you're going to law school for free, you're getting paid to do it, your full salary plus BAH and BAS, and you're not taking any hits to your rank for it. So what's the cost? Your service commitment for participating in FLEP is 6 years of active duty service after you graduate from law school and take the bar exam, and then you'll have an additional 2 years of inactive reserve service, making 8 years in total. So basically what you're doing is you're giving 2 years of active duty service for every 1 year that you're in law school, and because full-time law students are in school for 3 years, that's how you end up with 6 years. If you already have a service commitment ongoing by the time you start the FLEP program, then that 6 years of FLEP commitment that you're taking on will be in addition to whatever commitment that you already have. So let's say that by the time you start the FLEP program, you still have 2 years left on your service commitment from your original career field. In that scenario, you're not looking at 6 years of additional service, you're looking at 8, because you're still gonna have to complete that 2 years that you have from your original career field, but now you'll still also have to complete the 6 that you're taking on with the FLEP program. The only exception to this is if you have an active duty service commitment that is associated with the post 9/11 GI Bill transfer of education benefits. If you have that sort of commitment and you took on that post 9/11 GI Bill commitment prior to starting the FLEP program, then that commitment will run concurrently or at the same time as your FLEP commitment. And also, just because you graduate from law school does not magically mean that now you can just go out and start running amok and practicing law. First, you have to sit for and pass a bar exam and then swear into that bar so that you can become a licensed attorney. And at that point, after after you become a licensed attorney, then you can start practicing law. The Air Force won't pay for your bar prep course or the bar exam, and you absolutely should take a bar prep course like Barbary or Kaplan or some other reputable one, just speaking as one attorney to an aspiring attorney. But those fees are going to come out of your own pocket. You're not going to be limited to any particular state or territory's bar exam. The military operates under federal law, and to be able to practice law on a federal level, that means that you have to be licensed in any U.S. state, territory, Commonwealth, or the District of Columbia. So of all of those jurisdictions, you can pick whichever bar exam that you want to take. Another thing that you should know is that your summers are going to be spent doing internships at base legal offices, usually at bases that are located nearby your law school. All right, so what's the process to apply to FLEP? To be eligible to apply, you must be a U.S. citizen, be a commissioned officer in the U.S. Air Force on extended active duty, have served on active duty for at least 2 years, but not more than 6 years, either as an officer or enlisted by the time you begin law school, be an O3 or below at the time you begin law school, have graduated from a regionally accredited college or university with a bachelor's degree or equivalent. If you get accepted into the program, you'll need to get a conditional release from your career field, and you'll work that out with your functional manager at AFPC. And if you're a flyer coming from a rated career field, by the time you start law school, you'll need to have completed 3 years of service since being awarded your aeronautical rating. To apply, you're going to end up submitting the same online package as the rest of us who came in through direct appointment, also known as DAPPers. So I'm not going to get too heavy into the details about that process because I've made an entire video about it and I just don't want this to get way too long. So I'm going to leave a card in the top right corner that you can click on to be able to check out that video after this one. One difference between your process and the DAPPers process is that the selection board that you meet is going to be different from theirs. The FLEP board meets in February of each year, so you'll have to have your materials in on or before January 10th, and your interview with the wing level staff judge advocate will need to be completed on or before February 1st. The selection board is able to take up to 25 FLEPers per year, but that's all based on funding. So because of that, they oftentimes end up selecting less than 25 FLEPers per year, so the program is pretty competitive. You're also going to have applied to at least one American Bar Association accredited law school before you apply to FLEP, but you won't have to have been accepted before you apply to FLEP, and you're also going to have to take the LSAT, the law school admission test, and get your results back before you apply to FLEP. So what about E-FLEP? How is the program different for those who are retraining into the JAG Corps from being enlisted? The main difference is that you're going to have to go to OTS or Officer Training School and commission as a second lieutenant before you start law school, but then after that, your process is pretty much the same as the FLEPers in terms of going to law school full-time, taking and passing the bar exam, interning during your summer breaks, and eventually assessing into the JAG program. For E-FLEP eligibility, you have to be a U.S. citizen, have served on active duty for at least 2 years, but not more than 6 years by the time you begin law school, have graduated from a regionally accredited college or university with a bachelor's degree or equivalent by the time the selection board meets, have 6 months retainability past your projected OTS graduation date, meet all other requirements of the enlisted to OTS commissioning program. You can find those requirements set out in AFMAN 36-2032, Chapter 10, but basically you need to be eligible to become an officer. And just the same as with the FLEP applicants, you'll need to have applied to an American Bar Association accredited law school, but you don't have to be accepted before you apply for E-FLEP. Take the LSAT, the law school admission test, and receive your scores, and you'll need to submit your online application package on or before January 10th and conduct your SJA interview on or before February 1st of the year that you plan to meet the board. One big difference between E-FLEP and FLEP is that for E-FLEP, your active duty service commitment is 10 years after you graduate from law school and take the bar exam, rather than the 6 years for FLEP. The reason for this is that you still have to take on that same 6 years that the FLEPers take on, but you also have to take on an additional 4 years for commissioning as an officer and going through OTS. And again, just like with the FLEPers, if you're coming into the E-FLEP program with a service commitment already ongoing, then that previous service commitment will toll or pause until you complete your legal education and complete the 10 years that you're going to take on with the E-FLEP program, and then you'll be able to finish whatever service commitment that you had from before. If you want more info on this, then you can find more details in AFI 51-101, but 2 more super helpful things that I have for you. First, regardless of whether you're applying to FLEP or E-FLEP, you're still going to have to submit the same online application package that the rest of us who came in via direct appointment had to submit. So I've created an entire video on that application process, and I'll leave a link in the description below so that you can access that video, but I'll also leave that video towards the end so that you can click on it and watch that next. Second, if you're thinking about becoming a JAG, then you're probably also considering what the differences are between being a civilian attorney and a military attorney. So I've also created an entire video about the differences between a civilian legal career and a military legal career. So I'll also leave that video on the screen and a link for it in the description box below. I do hope this video was helpful. If it was, please let me know by hitting those like and subscribe buttons down below. I do thank you for your time. I appreciate you being here, and I'll see ya.